Maya Johnson woke up early on Saturday morning with a big smile on her face. Today was special. Today was the day she would finally open her very first bank account. She had been waiting for this day for a long time. The 12-year-old girl sat up in bed and reached under her pillow. There it was, the brown envelope she kept close every night. She opened it carefully and counted the money inside one more time. $2,847. Every single bill represented hard work, sweat, and sacrifice. For the past 2 years, Maya had worked harder than most kids her age. While her friends played video games and hung out at the mall, she was out in the neighborhood doing any job she could find. She walked dogs for busy families. She mowed lawns in the hot summer sun. She raked leaves in the fall and shoveled snow in the winter. She babysat for neighbors and helped elderly people carry their groceries. Every birthday, every holiday, she asked for money instead of toys. And she saved every single dollar. Her mother had always taught her the importance of saving money. "Baby, if you work hard and save your money, you can do anything you want in life," her mother would say. Maya believed her. She had big dreams. She wanted to go to college one day and become a veterinarian. She loved animals more than anything in the world. Maya got dressed quickly, putting on her best outfit, a clean white shirt and dark blue pants. She wanted to look nice and responsible for the bank. She brushed her hair and pulled it back into a neat ponytail. After breakfast, she kissed her mother goodbye. "Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" her mother asked. She had to work an extra shift at the hospital that morning, but she offered to call in late. "No, Mom, I can do this by myself," Maya said proudly. "I'm 12 now. I'm old enough." Her mother smiled and hugged her tight. "I'm so proud of you, baby. You've worked so hard for this money. Make sure you keep it safe," Maya promised she would. She put the envelope in her small backpack and walked the 6 blocks to First National Bank. It was a beautiful morning. The sun was shining and Maya felt like nothing could ruin her good mood. The bank was quiet when she walked in. Only a few customers were waiting in line. Maya looked around, feeling a little nervous. She had never been inside a bank before. Everything looked so clean and official. There were tall counters and computers and people in nice clothes working behind glass windows. She took a deep breath and got in line. She waited patiently, holding her backpack close to her chest. Her heart was beating fast with excitement. When it was finally her turn, she walked up to the counter with a big smile. The woman behind the counter was older, maybe around 50 years old. She had short blonde hair and wore a blue jacket with a name tag that said Helen Morrison. Helen looked up at Maya with a blank expression. She didn't smile back. "Can I help you?" Helen asked in a flat voice. "Yes, ma'am," Maya said politely. "I'd like to open a savings account, please." Helen looked at the young girl standing before her. Her eyes traveled from Maya's face down to her worn sneakers and back up again. There was something in Helen's expression that made Maya feel uncomfortable, but she tried to ignore it. "Where are your parents?" Helen asked. "My mom is at work," Maya explained, "but I have all the money. I saved it myself." Helen raised one eyebrow. "How much money are we talking about?" Maya felt proud as she unzipped her backpack and pulled out the brown envelope. She placed it on the counter carefully. $2,847. Helen's eyes widened. She stared at the envelope, then back at Maya. Her expression changed completely. The blank look was replaced with something else, suspicion. "Where did you get this money?" Helen asked loudly. Her voice carried across the bank and several people turned to look. Maya felt her cheeks get hot. "I earned it, ma'am. I've been saving for 2 years. I walk dogs and mow lawns and—" "Open the envelope," Helen interrupted. Maya's hands shook a little as she opened it. She pulled out the stack of bills and placed them on the counter. Most of the money was in $20 bills, but there were also 10s, 5s, and 1s. Some of the bills were wrinkled from being folded and unfolded so many times. Helen picked up the money and looked at it closely. Her face became hard and cold. "This money looks suspicious," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear. "What do you mean?" Maya asked, confused. "I earned it. I can explain where every dollar came from. I find it very hard to believe that a child your age has this much cash," Helen said. Her voice was sharp and accusing. "Kids don't just walk around with thousands of dollars. Where did you really get this money?" Maya felt tears starting to form in her eyes, but she fought them back. "I told you. I worked for it. I have a list at home of every job I did, and I'm going to need to speak with your parents," Helen said firmly. She picked up all the money and moved it behind the counter away from Maya. "This doesn't look right to me." "But it's my money," Maya said, her voice cracking. "I saved it." Other customers were openly staring now. Maya could feel their eyes on her. Some people whispered to each other. One older man shook his head. A woman pulled her purse closer to her body as if Maya might try to steal it. Helen crossed her arms. "Young lady, I've worked at this bank for 15 years. I know when something doesn't add up. Kids like you don't just show up with this kind of money. I think we need to get to the bottom of this." Maya's heart sank. "Kids like me?" she repeated quietly. She suddenly understood what was happening. It wasn't about the money at all. "I'm calling security," Helen announced. She picked up the phone on her desk without taking her eyes off Maya. "Please stay right where you are." Maya stood frozen at the counter. Her exciting day had turned into a nightmare. All around her, strangers stared and whispered. Her money sat behind the counter out of her reach. And Helen looked at her like she was a criminal. The happy, proud feeling Maya had woken up with was completely gone. In its place was shame, confusion, and a growing sense that something very unfair was happening to her. She wanted to run out of the bank, but she couldn't leave without her money. 2 years of hard work sat just a few feet away, and she had no idea how to get it back. She heard footsteps approaching from behind and turned to see a security guard walking toward her. Maya's hands began to shake. She had done nothing wrong, but she suddenly felt like she had. The security guard was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair at his temples. His name tag read Marcus Williams. He walked slowly toward the counter where Maya stood, his radio clipped to his belt. Maya's heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "What seems to be the problem here?" Marcus asked, looking between Helen and Maya. Helen pointed at the money sitting on the counter behind her. "This girl came in here with almost $3,000 in cash. She claims she earned it doing odd jobs, but I find that very hard to believe. Something about this situation doesn't feel right." Marcus looked down at Maya. His expression was calm and kind, not angry or suspicious. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Maya Johnson," she said in a small voice. "And I did earn that money. I really did." "She says she walks dogs and mows lawns," Helen said, her voice dripping with disbelief. "For 2 years. And somehow saved almost $3,000. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I wasn't born yesterday. Did you ask to see any proof?" Marcus asked Helen. "Proof?" Helen repeated. "What kind of proof would a child have? This money is probably stolen. Kids like her don't just walk into banks with thousands of dollars. Something is very wrong here." Maya felt the tears she had been holding back start to fall down her cheeks. "I'm not a thief," she said, her voice shaking. "I worked really hard for that money. I saved it in this envelope and I counted it every week to make sure I was getting closer to my goal." "Where are your parents?" Helen demanded again. "Why would they let you come here alone with all this cash?" "My mom is at work. She's a nurse at County Hospital. She works double shifts sometimes because money is tight. That's why I wanted to help. That's why I started working." Maya wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I can call her. She'll tell you." Helen shook her head firmly. "We'll wait for the police to arrive. They can sort this out." "The police?" Maya's voice rose in panic. "I didn't do anything wrong." Several customers had stopped what they were doing to watch the scene unfold. An elderly woman near the door whispered something to her husband. A young man in a business suit pulled out his phone and appeared to be recording. 2 teenage girls standing in line looked at each other with uncomfortable expressions. Marcus held up his hand. "Hold on, Helen. Let's not jump to conclusions here. Why don't we just take a moment and talk to the young lady?" "I don't need to talk to her," Helen said coldly. "My instincts are telling me something is off. I've been working in banking for 15 years, Marcus. I know when something doesn't add up. A child with wrinkled, crumpled bills totaling thousands of dollars? That's suspicious behavior." "Suspicious behavior?" Marcus repeated. "She's trying to open a savings account. That's exactly what responsible people do with their money." Helen's face turned red. "Are you questioning my judgment?" "I'm questioning your assumptions," Marcus said calmly. He turned back to Maya. "Sweetheart, tell me about the work you do. How did you earn this money?" Maya took a shaky breath. She was grateful that someone was finally willing to listen to her. "I started 2 years ago when I was 10. Mrs. Peterson down the street needed someone to walk her dog Max because she had surgery on her knee. She paid me $5 every time. Then she told Mrs. Chen about me, and Mrs. Chen asked me to walk her 2 dogs. Then more people started calling. Marcus nodded encouragingly. Go on. In the summer, I mow lawns. Mr. Rodriguez pays me $20 to mow his lawn every week. The Thompsons pay me $15. Mr. and Mrs. Washington pay me $25 because their yard is really big. In the fall, I rake leaves. In the winter, I shovel snow. I also babysit sometimes for the Martins. They have twin boys who are 5 years old. That's quite a lot of work for someone your age, Marcus said with respect in his voice. I don't mind, Maya said. I want to save money for college. I want to be a veterinarian. Helen made a dismissive sound. That's a nice story, but it's just words. Anyone can make up a story. Where's the proof? I have a notebook at home, Maya said desperately. I write down every job I do and how much I get paid. I keep track of everything. I can go get it. You're not going anywhere, Helen said sharply. She picked up the phone again. I'm calling the police right now. Wait, said a voice from behind them. Everyone turned to see a middle-aged woman with shopping bags step forward from the line. I know this girl. Maya looked at the woman. It took her a moment to recognize her. It was Mrs. Anderson from 3 streets over. You do? Marcus asked. Yes, she walks my neighbor's dogs every morning before school. I've seen her out there in the rain, in the heat, doesn't matter. She's always there, always on time. That girl works harder than most adults I know. Helen's jaw tightened. That still doesn't prove where all this money came from. Actually, said another voice. A young man in a business suit stepped forward, still holding his phone. I've been recording this whole thing. And I just want to say, ma'am, what you're doing right now looks a lot like discrimination. Discrimination? Helen's face went from red to purple. How dare you? I treat everyone who walks into this bank exactly the same. I'm just following protocol. What protocol? Marcus asked. The protocol that says you assume a child is a criminal before asking any questions. The protocol that says you refuse to provide service based on your gut feeling? Helen sputtered. I'm protecting this bank. From what? A 12-year-old girl trying to save money? Marcus shook his head. He turned to Maya. Do you have any identification with you? Maya nodded and pulled her school ID card from her backpack. Marcus looked at it and handed it back to her. Helen, give the young lady her money back, Marcus said firmly. Absolutely not, Helen said. Not until we verify this is legitimate. And how exactly do you plan to do that? Marcus asked. The girl has explained where the money came from. She's offered to show proof. She's provided identification. What more do you want? I want to speak with the manager, Helen announced. This is above my pay grade now. If you're going to question my professional judgment, then Mr. Chen can make the decision. Fine, Marcus said. He pulled his radio from his belt and pressed the button. This is Marcus. Can you send Mr. Chen to the main floor? We have a situation that needs his attention. Maya stood there feeling helpless. Her money was behind the counter, held hostage by a woman who had decided she was a criminal the moment she walked in the door. Other customers continued to stare. Some looked sympathetic, but most just looked curious, like they were watching a show. The young man with the phone spoke up again. For what it's worth, this is absolutely going on social media. People need to see how this bank treats its customers. Helen glared at him. You can't record in here without permission. Actually, I'm in a public area of a business, so yes, I can, the man said. And I think people will be very interested to see this. An older man near the back of the line cleared his throat. I've been banking here for 30 years, and I've never seen anything like this. This is shameful. The girl is clearly telling the truth. You don't know that, Helen snapped. And you don't know that she's lying, the man shot back. But you've already made up your mind, haven't you? Maya listened to strangers argue about her like she wasn't even there. She felt small and invisible and ashamed, even though she had done nothing wrong. She wished her mother was there. She wished she had never come to this bank. She wished she could disappear. Marcus knelt down so he was at eye level with Maya. Hey, he said softly. I believe you, okay? I know you worked hard for this money. We're going to sort this out. Maya nodded, but she wasn't sure she believed him. Nothing about this felt like it would be okay. Heavy footsteps approached from the hallway, and a man in a gray suit appeared. He had dark hair and glasses and looked stressed, like he'd been interrupted from something important. This must be Mr. Chen, the manager. Helen immediately started talking. Mr. Chen, thank goodness you're here. This situation requires your authority. This child came in with nearly $3,000. Mr. Chen held up his hand to stop her. He looked at Maya, at Marcus, at the crowd of watching customers, and at the young man still recording on his phone. His expression was hard to read. "Someone want to tell me what's going on here?" he asked. David Chen stood in the middle of the bank lobby, looking at the scene before him. He could feel the tension in the air. More than a dozen pairs of eyes were watching him, waiting to see what he would do. He had been the branch manager for 5 years, and he prided himself on running a smooth operation. This was anything but smooth. Helen spoke first, her voice urgent and insistent. "Mr. Chen, I'm glad you're here. This young girl came in claiming she wants to open an account. She has $2,847 in cash, all wrinkled bills, various denominations. She claims she earned it doing odd jobs, but I have serious concerns about the legitimacy of this money." David looked down at Maya. The girl's face was wet with tears, and she looked terrified. She was just a child, probably around his own daughter's age. But Helen was one of his most experienced employees. She had been with the bank for 15 years. Surely she wouldn't raise an alarm without good reason. "What kind of odd jobs?" David asked Maya, trying to keep his voice neutral. Maya wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. "I walk dogs, sir. And I mow lawns. I rake leaves and shovel snow. I babysit sometimes too. I've been saving for 2 years so I could go to college someday." "She has no proof," Helen interjected. "No parent with her, no documentation, just a story and a pile of cash. In my professional opinion, this requires investigation before we can process any transaction." Marcus, the security guard, stepped forward. "With respect, Mr. Chen, I think Helen is jumping to conclusions. The young lady has been very cooperative. She's explained where the money came from. She's even offered to provide documentation from home." "Documentation that we haven't seen," Helen said sharply. "For all we know, she could go home and make something up. We need to protect this bank from potential illegal activity." David felt caught in the middle. On one hand, Helen had a point. It was unusual for a child to come in with that much cash. Banks had to be careful about the sources of large deposits. On the other hand, the girl seemed genuine, and he couldn't ignore the uncomfortable feeling growing in his stomach about how this situation was being handled. "Where are your parents?" David asked Maya. "My mom is at work. She's a nurse. She works at County Hospital." Maya's voice was small and scared. "I can call her. Please, I just want my money back." "The money is evidence," Helen said firmly. "We can't just give it back until we verify its origin." "Evidence of what crime?" asked the woman who had spoken up earlier. "Mrs. Anderson. That girl works in my neighborhood. I see her every week. She's out there in all kinds of weather, working harder than most adults. What exactly are you accusing her of?" Helen's face flushed. "I'm not accusing her of anything. I'm simply exercising caution, which is my job." "Seems like more than caution to me," said the young man with the phone, still recording. "Seems like you made up your mind the second she walked up to your counter." "Mr. Chen, are you going to let customers speak to me this way?" Helen demanded. David held up both hands. "Everyone, please. Let's all calm down." He turned to Maya. "Young lady, I understand you're upset, but you have to understand, banks have rules. We have to be careful about large cash deposits, especially when they're unusual." "What's unusual about it?" Marcus asked. "People deposit cash every day." "Children don't typically deposit thousands of dollars," David said. "So because she's young, she's automatically suspicious?" The older man from the back of the line had moved closer. "That doesn't sound like policy. That sounds like prejudice." "I'm not prejudiced," Helen said loudly. "I would have the same concerns about any child regardless of race." "Would you?" asked Mrs. Anderson. "Because I've seen you help plenty of young people in here before, and I've never seen you treat them like criminals." David could feel the situation spiraling out of control. The customers were turning against Helen, and by extension against him and the bank. The man with the phone was still recording. This could become a public relations nightmare if he didn't handle it correctly. But he also couldn't just ignore Helen's concerns. She was a trained professional. She knew the warning signs of suspicious activity. And if there was any chance this money was stolen or obtained illegally, he had a responsibility to investigate. "Here's what we're going to do," David said, trying to sound authoritative and fair. "We're going to—" "Check the cameras," Marcus interrupted. Everyone turned to look at the security guard. "What?" David asked. "The security cameras," Marcus repeated. "We have cameras covering the parking lot and the entrance. We also have access to footage from some of the stores next door. They share their feeds with us as part of the plaza's security agreement. If this young lady has been working in the neighborhood for 2 years like she says, there might be footage of her doing those jobs. David hesitated. He hadn't thought of that. It was actually a good idea, but reviewing security footage took time, and he had a lobby full of customers waiting for service. Helen shook her head. That's ridiculous. We don't have time to go through hours of old footage. And even if we did find something, it wouldn't prove where all this money came from. Actually, it would help establish her credibility, Marcus said. And I don't think it will take as long as you think. I've seen this girl walking past the bank on Saturday mornings, same time almost every week. I never paid much attention before, but I remember seeing her with dogs with lawn equipment in a wagon. I remember because I always thought it was impressive, a kid that young, working that hard. David looked at Marcus carefully. The security guard had been with the bank for over a decade. He was honest, reliable, and had no reason to lie. You've seen her before? David asked. Yes, sir. Many times. Walking right past this bank on her way to the fancy neighborhood over on Oak Street. That's where all the big houses are, where people have money to pay for services like dog walking and lawn care. Helen made a dismissive sound. Even if that's true, it doesn't prove anything. It proves she's telling the truth about her work, Marcus said calmly.
And if she's telling the truth about that, why would she lie about the money?
David looked around at all the watching faces. He saw sympathy for Maya. He saw anger directed at Helen. He saw people with their phones out, some definitely recording. This was already bad. If he sided with Helen and it turned out the girl was innocent, the video would make the bank look terrible. But if he sided with Maya and Helen was right, he could be facilitating something illegal. Please, Maya said softly. I just want my money back. I didn't do anything wrong. Her voice broke David's heart. She sounded so defeated, so hurt. He thought about his own daughter. How would he feel if someone treated her this way? How long would it take to check the footage? David asked Marcus. For the last couple of months, maybe 30 minutes to skim through the Saturday mornings. Less if we speed up the playback, Helen protested immediately. Mr. Chen, this is a waste of time. We should call the police and let them handle it. The police? Maya's eyes went wide with fear. No, please. I'm not a criminal. Then you have nothing to worry about, Helen said coldly. That's enough, Helen, David said, surprising himself with the firmness in his voice. He made a decision. Maybe it was the right one, maybe it wasn't, but he had to do something. We're going to check the security footage. If it supports what Maya is saying, we'll process her account. If it raises more questions, then we'll proceed from there. This is a mistake, Helen said. You're undermining my authority and my professional judgment. I'm doing my job, David said, which is to serve our customers fairly while protecting the bank's interests. Reviewing the footage does both. He turned to Maya. Will you come with us to the security office? Maya nodded quickly. She looked relieved, like someone had finally thrown her a lifeline. Marcus led the way to the back of the bank. David gestured for Maya to follow, and he walked behind her. Helen came too, her footsteps heavy with anger. The customers in the lobby began talking among themselves, their voices mixing into a low buzz of conversation. The security office was small and cramped, with monitors covering one wall. Marcus sat down at the main console and began typing on the keyboard. The screens flickered as he pulled up different camera feeds. Let's start with 8 weeks ago, Marcus said. Saturday mornings between 8 and 10. David watched as Marcus pulled up footage and began speeding through it. The images on the screen moved in fast forward, people and cars zipping by like insects. There, Marcus said, slowing the footage down. That's her. On the screen, clear as day, was Maya. She was walking past the bank with 3 dogs on leashes, 2 small ones and 1 large golden retriever. Her face was visible, unmistakable. She was wearing different clothes than today, but it was definitely her. Marcus switched to another camera. Another Saturday. There was Maya again, this time pulling a red wagon with a lawnmower and other equipment in it. That doesn't prove anything, Helen said, but her voice had less confidence than before. Marcus kept clicking through footage. Week after week there was Maya, walking dogs, pulling her wagon, sometimes in sunshine, sometimes in rain. In one clip she was helping an elderly woman carry grocery bags, and the woman appeared to be trying to give her money. Maya shook her head no, but the woman insisted, and finally Maya accepted the bills and put them in her pocket. The security office fell silent except for the quiet hum of the computers. On the screens, the footage continued to play, clip after clip of Maya working. Mowing lawns, walking dogs, carrying groceries, shoveling snow. Each video was proof that she had told the truth. David Chen felt his chest tighten with shame. He had almost made a terrible mistake. He had almost sided with Helen's suspicions instead of listening to a hard-working child who deserved better. Marcus leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. He didn't say anything, but his expression said everything. He had known. He had seen Maya for what she really was, a responsible, dedicated young girl, and he had tried to tell them. Helen stood frozen, staring at the monitors. Her face had gone pale. The confidence she had shown in the lobby was completely gone, replaced by something that looked almost like panic. Helen started to speak, then stopped. She cleared her throat and tried again. I was just being careful. It's my job to be careful. David turned to her, and for the first time in their years of working together, he felt disappointed in her, really disappointed. Being careful is one thing, Helen, he said quietly, but what you did out there wasn't careful. It was wrong. I treat everyone the same, Helen said defensively, but her voice shook. I would have questioned anyone who came in with that much cash. Would you? Marcus asked. He swiveled his chair to face her. Because I've worked here for 11 years, Helen. I've seen you help plenty of young people open accounts. I saw you help the Wilson boy last month. He came in with money from his birthday and his summer job. He had maybe $800. You smiled at him. You congratulated him. You didn't accuse him of anything. Helen's mouth opened and closed. That was different. How was it different? Marcus asked calmly. Because he was white? Don't you dare, Helen snapped. Don't you dare make this about race. I'm not a racist, then what is it about? David asked. He felt tired, suddenly tired and sad. Because from where I'm standing, Maya told you exactly where the money came from. She was polite. She was cooperative. And you immediately assumed she was lying. You assumed she was a criminal. You refused to even consider that she might be telling the truth. She's a child with thousands of dollars, Helen said. That's unusual. That's suspicious. No, David said firmly. It's impressive. It's admirable. This girl worked for 2 years, saved every dollar, and came here to do the responsible thing. Open a bank account. And instead of helping her, you humiliated her. You called security on her. You wanted to call the police on her. Maya stood very still, listening to every word. Tears continued to roll down her cheeks, but she didn't make a sound. Helen's face turned red. I was protecting the bank. That's my job. Your job is to serve customers, David said. And you failed. You failed this young lady and you failed this bank. Marcus pulled up one more piece of footage. Mr. Chen, you should see this. On the screen was a clip from several weeks ago. Maya was walking 3 dogs past the bank. One of the dogs stopped to sniff a tree, and while Maya waited patiently, a man walked up to her. He appeared to be asking her something. Maya smiled and nodded. The man pulled out his wallet and handed her what looked like a business card. They talked for a minute, then went their separate ways. That's Mr. Patterson, Marcus said. He's one of our regular customers. Comes in every Friday to make his business deposits. He owns Patterson Property Management, manages about 30 rental homes in the area. What does that have to do with anything? Helen asked. Mr. Patterson is always looking for reliable people to do maintenance work, Marcus explained. Looks like he was asking Maya about her services. If we called him right now, I bet he'd confirm her story. David nodded slowly. Let's do that. You can't be serious, Helen said. You're going to call a customer to verify a child's story? Why not? David asked. You wanted proof. Let's get proof. Marcus pulled out his phone and dialed a number from memory. He put it on speaker. After 3 rings, a man's voice answered. Hello? Mr. Patterson, this is Marcus Williams from First National Bank. I'm here with Mr. Chen, the branch manager. We're sorry to bother you on a Saturday, but we have a quick question. Sure, what's up? Mr. Patterson sounded curious but not concerned. Do you know a young lady named Maya Johnson, about 12 years old, walks dogs and does lawn work in the neighborhood? There was a pause. Maya, yeah, of course. Great kid, super reliable. She's done work for 3 of my properties. Why, is something wrong? David closed his eyes briefly. There it was. More proof, more evidence that Maya was exactly who she said she was. No, sir, nothing's wrong, Marcus said. We just needed to verify some information. Thank you for your time. Is Maya okay? Mr. Patterson asked, concern in his voice now. She's fine, sir. Thank you again. Marcus ended the call. The room was quiet again. Helen had no more arguments. No more suspicions. No more excuses. The evidence was overwhelming. Maya had told the truth about everything. David turned to Maya. The girl looked exhausted, like she had just run a marathon. Her eyes were red from crying. She hugged her backpack close to her chest. Maya, David said gently, I owe you an apology. Maya looked up at him, surprised. You came to our bank today to do something responsible and mature, David continued. You wanted to open a savings account with money you earned through hard work and dedication. And instead of helping you, we treated you with suspicion. We made you feel like a criminal when you had done nothing wrong. That was unacceptable, and I am truly sorry. Maya didn't say anything. She just nodded slightly. David looked at Helen. I think you owe Maya an apology too. Helen's jaw tightened. She looked at Maya, then at the floor, then back at Maya. I apologize, she said stiffly. I was just doing my job. No, David said sharply. A real apology, not an excuse. Helen's face flushed again, but this time with embarrassment rather than anger. She took a breath. I'm sorry, Maya, I shouldn't have treated you that way. I was wrong. The words sounded forced and uncomfortable, but at least she said them. Maya still didn't respond. She looked down at her hands. David crouched down so he was at Maya's eye level. Let's go back out to the lobby and finish what you came here to do. Let's open your savings account. Okay, Maya hesitated. Can I have my money back? Of course, David said. It's your money. You earned every dollar of it. They walked back through the bank to the lobby. The customers who had been watching earlier looked up with interest. Some of them had waited, wanting to see how the situation would end. Others had left, probably spreading word about what they had witnessed. David went behind the counter and picked up Maya's brown envelope. He counted out the money carefully, $2,847, and placed it in front of her. I want to personally open your account, David said, and I want to make this right. The bank is going to add $200 to your opening deposit as an apology for what happened today. Maya's eyes widened. $200? You earned it, David said. Actually, you earned more than that. You earned respect and good service, and we failed to give you that. This is the least we can do. He pulled out the paperwork for a new savings account. He explained each form carefully, making sure Maya understood what she was signing. He helped her fill everything out. He treated her with the patience and respect she should have received from the very beginning. When the account was finally open, David printed out a receipt showing her balance, $3,047. Maya stared at the paper in her hands. After everything that had happened, she had her bank account. She had accomplished what she came to do. But something had changed inside her. The excitement she had felt that morning was gone. She had learned a hard lesson today about how the world worked, about how people made assumptions based on how you looked. Thank you, Maya said quietly. She took her receipt and put it carefully in her backpack. Maya, Marcus said, stepping forward, I want you to know something. What you did, working hard, saving your money, coming here to be responsible with it, that's amazing. You should be proud of yourself. Really proud? Maya managed a small smile. Thank you, Mr. Williams, you were nice to me. Can I walk you out? Marcus offered. Maya nodded. She looked at David one more time, then at Helen. Helen had gone back to her station and was pointedly not looking at anyone. As Marcus walked Maya toward the door, Mrs. Anderson, the woman who had spoken up earlier, stopped them. Honey, I want you to know that you did nothing wrong, Mrs. Anderson said. You worked hard for your money and you should be proud. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of your success. Thank you, Maya whispered. The young man with the phone approached next. I recorded everything, he said. If you want, I can delete it. Or if you want, I can share it. People should know what happened here today. Maya looked up at Marcus, unsure what to say. That's your choice, Marcus told her gently. Whatever you want to do, Maya thought for a moment. Part of her wanted to forget the whole thing ever happened. But another part of her, a stronger part, knew that what happened was wrong. And maybe other people needed to see it so it wouldn't happen to someone else. You can share it, Maya said. Maybe it will help people understand. The young man nodded. You're brave, he told her. What happened to you wasn't fair, but you handled it with more grace than most adults would have. Marcus walked Maya all the way outside. The morning sun was still shining, but Maya didn't feel the same happiness she had felt on her walk to the bank. Are you okay? Marcus asked. Maya shrugged. I guess so. I got my bank account. But, Marcus prompted. But I didn't think it would be like that, Maya said. I thought people would be proud of me. I thought they would think I was responsible and smart. But that lady, she looked at me like I was bad. Like I didn't deserve to be there, Marcus sighed. I know, sweetheart. And I wish I could tell you that will never happen again, but the truth is it might. Some people make judgments based on what they see on the outside instead of who you are on the inside. Because I'm black? Maya asked. Marcus looked down at Maya with sad, knowing eyes. He had lived long enough to know the answer to her question, and he hated that she had to learn it so young. Yes, he said honestly. I think that was part of it. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry you had to experience that. Maya nodded slowly. She had suspected it, but hearing it said out loud made it real, made it hurt more. But here's what I want you to remember, Marcus continued. What that woman thought about you doesn't define who you are. You know the truth. You know you worked hard. You know you earned that money honestly. You know you're a good person. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Okay, Maya said softly. And one more thing, Marcus added. What happened in there today? That's going to have consequences. Mr. Chen isn't going to let this slide. Trust me. Maya wasn't sure she cared about consequences. She just wanted to go home, talk to her mother, and try to forget this whole terrible morning. She said goodbye to Marcus and started walking back toward her house. Inside the bank, David Chen stood in the lobby feeling the weight of what had just happened. Several customers had left, probably to tell their friends and family about the incident. The ones who remained kept glancing over at him and at Helen. The atmosphere was uncomfortable and tense. David walked over to Helen's station. Come to my office, please. Now, Helen asked. She was trying to help a customer with a deposit. Yes, now, David said firmly. Mr. Garcia, I apologize for the interruption. Sandra will help you with your deposit. He gestured to another teller. Helen followed David to his office, her shoulders stiff and defensive. When they got inside, David closed the door and sat down at his desk. He didn't offer Helen a seat. Do you understand what just happened out there? David asked. I made a judgment call, Helen said. It turned out to be wrong. I apologized. It was more than wrong, Helen. It was discriminatory. Helen's eyes flashed with anger. I told you I'm not a racist. I treated that girl the same way I would treat anyone in that situation. That's not true, David said. Marcus pointed out that you helped the Wilson boy last month without any questions. You've helped other young people open accounts. But when Maya walked in, you immediately assumed the worst. Why? Because the situation was suspicious. No, David said. The situation was unusual. There's a difference. Suspicious means you have actual evidence of wrongdoing. Unusual just means different from normal. And you treated unusual like it was criminal. Helen crossed her arms. So what are you saying? That I can't use my judgment anymore? That I have to just accept every story I'm told? I'm saying you need to examine your biases, David said. Because whether you want to admit it or not, you had a bias against that girl from the moment she walked up to your counter. And that bias colored every decision you made. I don't have to listen to this, Helen said. I've worked here for 15 years. I've never had a complaint. I've always done my job well. Actually, David said, pulling open a file on his computer. That's not entirely true. Helen's face went pale. What do you mean? I've been doing some research while you were out there, David said. I pulled up customer feedback from the past 2 years. There have been 3 complaints about you. 3 different customers who felt they were treated rudely or dismissively. Want to guess what they all had in common? Helen said nothing. They were all people of color, David continued. One was an older black gentleman trying to cash his Social Security check. You made him wait while you verified it multiple times, even though it was a standard government check. Another was a Hispanic woman trying to get a cashier's check for a down payment on a house. You questioned her extensively about where the money came from, even though she had documentation. The third was an Asian college student trying to open an account with scholarship money. You asked to see his scholarship letter 3 times. I was being thorough, Helen said weakly. You were being biased, David corrected. And I missed it. I should have seen the pattern earlier, and I didn't. That's on me. But now that I see it clearly, I can't ignore it. Helen's hands were shaking now. What are you saying? I'm saying you're suspended effective immediately, David said. You'll be on paid suspension for 1 week while we conduct a full investigation into your conduct. HR will be involved. We'll review all of your transactions, all of your customer interactions, and then we'll make a decision about your future with this bank. You can't do this, Helen said, her voice rising. You can't punish me for doing my job. I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer. That's your right, David said. But the decision is made. Please collect your personal belongings and leave the premises. Security will escort you out. Helen stared at him in disbelief. Then her expression hardened. Fine, but you're making a mistake. You're ruining my career because you're afraid of bad publicity. You're sacrificing a loyal employee because some kid made a scene. No, David said quietly. I'm correcting a mistake that should have been addressed a long time ago. And that kid didn't make a scene. You did. Helen stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. She walked out of the office without another word. David watched her go, then put his head in his hands. This was going to be a difficult week. The story of what happened at First National Bank didn't stay inside the bank. The young man with the phone, whose name was Travis Martinez, posted the video that evening on social media. He wrote a detailed caption explaining what he had witnessed. A hard-working 12-year-old girl being accused of theft simply for trying to open a bank account. The video spread quickly. By Sunday morning, it had been shared thousands of times. By Monday, it had gone viral. News outlets picked it up. Local television stations ran stories about it. People were outraged. The comments on Travis's post were overwhelmingly supportive of Maya. This is heartbreaking. That poor girl worked so hard. I will never bank at First National again. This is exactly what's wrong with our society. Assumptions based on skin color. That bank employee should be fired immediately. But there were other comments too, less kind ones. We don't know the full story. Maybe the teller had good reason to be suspicious. Banks have to be careful. Better safe than sorry. People are so quick to play the race card these days. Maya's mother, Sarah Johnson, saw the video on Monday morning before her shift at the hospital. She was furious and heartbroken at the same time. She couldn't believe what her daughter had gone through alone. She called Maya, who was at school during her lunch break. "Baby, why didn't you call me right away?" Sarah asked. "I would have left work. I would have come to help you." "I didn't want to bother you, Mom," Maya said, "and it worked out okay. I got my account, but at what cost?" Sarah said. "You shouldn't have had to go through that. You shouldn't have been treated like a criminal." "I know," Maya said quietly. "Mr. Williams said it might happen again, though. He said some people just make assumptions." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. She had tried so hard to protect her daughter from the ugly parts of the world, but she couldn't protect her from everything. Maya was growing up, and growing up meant learning painful truths. "Listen to me," Sarah said. "You are smart, hardworking, and good. Don't ever let anyone make you doubt that. You hear me?" "I hear you, Mom. I'm proud of you," Sarah continued. "I'm proud of how hard you worked to save that money. I'm proud of how you handled yourself at the bank. And I'm proud of the person you're becoming." "Thanks, Mom," Maya said. She felt better hearing her mother's words, even though the hurt from Saturday still lingered. The viral video had consequences beyond just Maya and the bank. It started conversations. At dinner tables and in classrooms, people talked about bias and assumptions. They talked about how young people are treated differently based on their race. They talked about the importance of listening and believing. At Maya's school, her teachers learned what had happened. Some of them used it as a teaching moment, discussing with their classes what bias looks like and how to recognize it in themselves. Maya's friends rallied around her. Some of them had seen the video. They told her she was brave. They told her she was cool for having so much money saved. They told her the bank lady was wrong, but Maya noticed something else too. Some people looked at her differently now. Some kids who had never talked to her before suddenly wanted to be her friend. Teachers paid more attention to her. It felt strange, like she had become famous for something she never wanted to be famous for. On Wednesday, Maya got a phone call from Mr. Patterson, the property manager who Marcus had called for verification. "Maya, I saw what happened at the bank," Mr. Patterson said. "I'm so sorry you went through that. And I want you to know that your reputation in this neighborhood is excellent. Everyone I've talked to says you're reliable, professional, and trustworthy." "Thank you, Mr. Patterson," Maya said. "I have a proposal for you," he continued. "I manage 30 rental properties. I'm looking for someone to handle regular lawn maintenance for 10 of them. That would be 10 lawns every week during the growing season. I'd pay you $30 per lawn. That's $300 a week. Maya's eyes went wide. $300 a week? That was more money than she had ever imagined making. But I'm in school during the week, Maya said. You could do them on weekends, Mr. Patterson suggested. 5 on Saturday, 5 on Sunday. I think you could handle it based on what I've seen of your work. Maya did the math in her head. If she could do each lawn in about an hour and a half, she could finish 5 lawns in one day. It would be a lot of work, but the money would be incredible. I'd like to do it, Maya said, but I need to ask my mom first. Of course, Mr. Patterson said. Have her call me when she's ready to discuss it. When Maya told her mother about the offer, Sarah was torn. On one hand, she was proud that Maya's hard work had led to such an opportunity. On the other hand, she worried about her daughter taking on too much. That's a lot of lawns, baby, Sarah said. That's a lot of work for someone your age. I can do it, Mom, Maya insisted. And think about how much money I could save for college. Sarah thought about it carefully. Finally, she agreed with conditions. Maya had to keep her grades up. She had to take breaks when she needed them. And she had to tell Sarah immediately if the work became too much. Maya agreed to all the conditions. She called Mr. Patterson back and accepted the job. But the opportunities didn't stop there. The viral video had caught the attention of local business owners who wanted to support Maya. The owner of a lawn and garden center called Sarah and offered to donate a professional-grade lawnmower to Maya, along with other equipment she might need. A local dog training business reached out and offered Maya free courses so she could learn even better techniques for handling dogs. The community was rallying around her, trying to make up for the injustice she had experienced. On Friday, exactly 1 week after the incident, Maya received a letter in the mail. It was from First National Bank from David Chen. Maya held the letter from First National Bank in her hands, nervous about what it might say. Her mother sat beside her on the couch, reading over her shoulder as Maya carefully opened the envelope. The letter was typed on official bank letterhead. It read, Dear Maya Johnson, I am writing to follow up on the incident that occurred at our bank last Saturday. First, I want to reiterate how deeply sorry I am for the way you were treated. You came to our bank to do something responsible and mature, and you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Instead, you were subjected to unfair suspicion and humiliation. That was unacceptable. I want you to know that we have taken this matter very seriously. After a thorough investigation, Helen Morrison is no longer employed by First National Bank. Her resignation was accepted this morning. Additionally, we are implementing mandatory training for all staff members on unconscious bias and fair customer service. We are also revising our policies to ensure that situations like this never happen again. I would like to invite you and your mother to meet with me and our regional director next week. We want to hear your thoughts on how we can do better. We also want to discuss ways that First National Bank can support your educational goals. Again, I am truly sorry for what happened. You showed remarkable composure and maturity in a difficult situation. I hope you will give us the opportunity to earn back your trust. Sincerely, David Chen, Branch Manager. Sarah read the letter twice, then looked at her daughter. What do you think, baby? Do you want to meet with them? Maya thought about it. Part of her never wanted to see that bank again, but another part of her was curious about what they wanted to say. And if they were really trying to change, maybe it was worth listening. I think so, Maya said, as long as you come with me. Of course I will, Sarah promised. The following Tuesday, Maya and her mother sat in a conference room at First National Bank. David Chen was there, along with a woman named Patricia Cole, who was the regional director for the bank. Marcus Williams was also present, which made Maya feel a little better. At least one person in the room had been kind to her from the start. Patricia Cole spoke first. She was a tall woman with kind eyes and graying hair. Maya, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. I know it must be difficult for you to be back here after what happened. Maya nodded but didn't say anything. I've reviewed all the footage and reports from last Saturday, Patricia continued. What happened to you was wrong. It was a failure of judgment, a failure of training, and a failure of leadership. I take responsibility for that as someone who oversees multiple branches. We should have caught the pattern of behavior before it affected you. What pattern? Sarah asked. Patricia explained about the other complaints, the other customers of color who had been treated with extra suspicion. She explained that these incidents had been logged but never properly investigated. The bank had failed to connect the dots. That stops now, Patricia said firmly. Every complaint will be taken seriously. Every incident will be investigated. And we're implementing quarterly training sessions on bias awareness for all employees. David Chen spoke next. Maya, I also want to apologize personally. When Helen first raised concerns, I should have questioned her assumptions more carefully. I should have listened to you more closely. I should have trusted Marcus's judgment. Instead, I hesitated, and that hesitation caused you more pain. I'm sorry, Maya looked at him. She could see that he meant it. He looked uncomfortable and ashamed, which was different from Helen's forced apology. It's okay, Maya said quietly. You did help me in the end. But I should have helped you from the beginning, David insisted. Patricia pulled out a folder from her briefcase. Maya, we want to do something to support your goals. I understand you're saving money for college and you want to become a veterinarian. Maya nodded. First National Bank would like to establish a scholarship fund in your name, Patricia said. We're contributing $15,000 to start. This money will be held in a special account and will be available to you when you're ready to attend college. Maya's mouth fell open. $15,000? That's correct, Patricia said with a smile. Additionally, we're going to match every dollar you deposit into your savings account for the next 4 years, up to $5,000 per year. So if you save $5,000 in a year, we'll add another $5,000. Sarah put her hand over her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. This was more money than she had ever imagined. This could change her daughter's future. Why? Maya asked. Why would you do that? Patricia leaned forward. Because what happened to you was wrong and we want to make it right. But also because you deserve it. You've shown incredible work ethic and responsibility. You've shown that you have goals and you're willing to work hard to achieve them. Those are exactly the kinds of qualities we want to support and encourage. Marcus Williams spoke up for the first time. Maya, you inspired a lot of people with your story. The bank has received hundreds of emails and calls about you. Most of them are angry about what happened, but a lot of them are also impressed by you. People want to help you succeed. Maya didn't know what to say. A week ago, she had been humiliated and accused. Now people were offering her scholarships and opportunities. It felt overwhelming. Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. What do you say, baby? Thank you, Maya said softly. Thank you so much. The meeting continued for another hour. They discussed the details of the scholarship fund and the matching program. They talked about the changes the bank was making. Patricia asked Maya if she would be willing to participate in a video that the bank would use for employee training, showing a real example of what not to do and why it mattered. Maya agreed, though the idea of being on video again made her nervous. As they were preparing to leave, Marcus walked Maya and her mother to the door. How are you really doing? He asked Maya. Not the public answer. The real answer. Maya thought about it. I'm okay, I guess. Better than last week. But sometimes I think about it and I get sad. Like I was so excited that morning and then everything went wrong. I know, Marcus said gently. And those feelings are valid. What happened to you was hurtful, and it's okay to still feel hurt about it. But good things came from it too, Maya added. I got job offers. I got a scholarship. People are being nice to me. That's true, Marcus agreed. Sometimes bad things lead to good things. But that doesn't make the bad thing okay. You understand? Maya nodded. She did understand. She was grateful for the opportunities, but she would rather have just been treated fairly from the start. Over the next few weeks, life started to feel more normal for Maya. She began working for Mr. Patterson, mowing lawns every weekend. The work was hard, but she enjoyed it. She liked being outside. She liked the feeling of accomplishment when she finished a job and saw the neat, clean lawn behind her. Her savings account grew quickly. Between her regular jobs and the new lawn care work, she was making more money than she ever had before. And with the bank's matching program, her balance doubled every time she made a deposit. The viral video eventually faded from people's attention. New stories came and went, and Maya's story became old news. She was relieved. She had never wanted to be famous, but the conversation her story started didn't fade. At community meetings and city council sessions, people talked about bias in businesses. They talked about how to train employees better. They talked about how to create more inclusive environments. Helen Morrison, the bank teller who had accused Maya, was never seen at First National Bank again. Rumors spread about what happened to her. Some people said she moved to another city. Others said she found a different career. Maya didn't know and didn't particularly care. She had decided not to hold on to anger. It would only hurt her, not Helen. In school, Maya became an example that teachers pointed to when they talked about perseverance and dignity. Her story was used in lessons about bias and justice. Maya didn't always like the attention, but she understood why it was important. One day, about 6 months after the incident, Maya was walking dogs past the bank when she saw David Chen getting out of his car. He saw her too and walked over. "Maya, how are you?" he asked warmly. "I'm good, Mr. Chen, just working." "I can see that. How many dogs are you handling these days?" Maya laughed. "Too many sometimes. But I'm not complaining," David smiled. "Your savings account is looking very healthy. I checked it this morning. You're over $20,000 now." Maya felt a burst of pride. "Really?" "Really. At the rate you're going, you'll have enough for all 4 years of college by the time you graduate high school." They talked for a few more minutes. Then Maya continued on her route. As she walked, she thought about how different things were now compared to that awful Saturday morning. She had learned hard lessons about the world. She had learned that people make assumptions. She had learned that unfairness exists and sometimes you're on the receiving end of it. She had learned that the color of your skin can affect how people treat you, no matter how hard you work or how good you are. But she had also learned other things. She had learned that there are people like Marcus who stand up for what's right. She had learned that communities can come together to support someone who's been wronged. She had learned that her voice matters and her story can create change. By the time Maya turned 13, her story had become part of local history. First National Bank put a plaque in their lobby dedicating themselves to fair treatment of all customers. They cited Maya's case as the catalyst for change. The plaque didn't mention her by name, she had asked them not to, but everyone who worked there knew the story. Maya's reputation in the neighborhood was golden. People knew her as the girl who worked harder than anyone else. They knew her as reliable, professional, and trustworthy. Parents pointed her out to their children as an example of what dedication looks like. When Maya entered high school at 14, she had saved over $35,000. Combined with the scholarship fund from the bank and the matching contributions, she had enough money to pay for any college she wanted to attend. Her dream of becoming a veterinarian was no longer just a dream. It was a realistic, achievable goal. She still walked dogs every morning before school. She still mowed lawns on the weekends. Not because she had to anymore, but because she wanted to. The work made her feel capable and independent. It gave her purpose. Sarah Johnson watched her daughter grow with pride and sometimes heartbreak. She was proud of Maya's strength and success, but she was heartbroken that Maya had to learn such difficult lessons so young. She wished she could have protected her daughter from that experience at the bank, but she also knew that the experience, as painful as it was, had shaped Maya into someone even stronger and more determined. "You're going to do great things, baby," Sarah told Maya one evening as they sat together going over college brochures. "I'm going to try," Maya said. "You're already doing them," Sarah corrected. "You're 13 years old and you've accomplished more than most adults. You've saved money, built a business, handled injustice with grace, and inspired a whole community." "Those are great things," Maya smiled. She didn't always feel like she had done great things. Most of the time, she just felt like she was working hard and trying her best. But maybe that was enough. Maybe doing your best, even when things are difficult, was what greatness really meant. Years later, when Maya was in college studying veterinary medicine, she would sometimes think back to that Saturday morning at the bank. The memory still stung a little, but it was also a reminder of how far she had come. She had walked into that bank as a 12-year-old girl with a dream and an envelope full of cash. She had been treated unfairly, accused unjustly, and humiliated publicly, but she had survived it. She had risen above it. She had used it as fuel to work even harder and dream even bigger. The incident had changed her, there was no denying that. It had opened her eyes to realities she hadn't fully understood before. But it hadn't broken her. It hadn't stopped her. If anything, it had made her more determined to succeed, and succeed she did. By the time Maya graduated from college, she had earned her degree with honors. She had worked throughout school, still maintaining her lawn care business during summers. She had saved and invested wisely. She had built relationships with mentors and professors who believed in her. When she opened her own veterinary clinic at the age of 27, First National Bank was there at the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Patricia Cole, now retired, came to congratulate her. David Chen, who had moved to a different branch, sent flowers and a note, and Marcus Williams, the security guard who had stood up for her when she was just 12 years old, was right there in the front row, clapping louder than anyone else. "I knew you'd make it," Marcus told her after the ceremony. "I knew it from the moment I met you." Maya hugged him tight. "Thank you for believing in me." "Thank you for proving me right," Marcus replied with a smile. The story of what happened at First National Bank became a teaching tool. It was used in diversity training programs at businesses across the country. It was discussed in college classes about social justice. It was written about in articles about unconscious bias. But for Maya, it was just one chapter in her life. An important chapter, a difficult chapter, but just one chapter. She had many more chapters to write, and she intended to write them on her own terms. She never forgot where she came from. She never forgot the lessons she learned. And she never stopped working hard. Because hard work was what had gotten her through that difficult day and every day since. Maya Johnson had walked into a bank with a dream and walked out with a harsh lesson about the world. But she had taken that lesson and transformed it into strength, success, and a determination to make the world a little bit better than she found it. And that, perhaps, was the real truth that the security footage revealed. Not just the truth about what happened that day, but the truth about who Maya really was. A fighter, a worker, and someone who refused to let anyone else's assumptions define her future.